What are your thoughts just on Trey Lance? Because we know he's healthy now. We know he's working out now, all those things. What's the number one thing you want to see from him during this offseason progression, OTAs, mini camps, all that stuff? What is it that you're looking for progress wise, Trey Lance, just during this offseason? What do we need to see?
What I want to see is efficiency in the short passing game. I think one, people assume that the deep ball came in more with Trey Lance because that's what Shanahan wants out of the offense. I think it came in more because that's a strength of Trey Lance, and he doesn't have the short game passing efficiency that we've had with Jimmy G, or that we ended up seeing with Brock Purdy. If he adds that to his game, that will be huge, and that will help the running game that they're adding with him, because that's where that really starts to stress the defense. When you have weak side linebackers who have to choose, and this is what we saw with Philadelphia's offense. When you have weak side linebackers who have to choose between helping on the run with the quarterback or the running back, or covering in that short, quick area where Brandon Ayuk loves to live, where Debo Samuel loves to live, where Kittle loves to live, um, that really starts to stress the defense. And that's what then allows that big arm to open up down the field. So I want to see decisiveness in that, anticipation on his throws, understanding how to manipulate zone coverages. These are all things, though, that I think I'm not expecting a huge jump from now until week one. I want to see progression. I think where you really see that is if he's able to start games 1 through games 10, you start to see these things move. Because we got to remember, Brock Purdy looked as polished he was because he had, like, what, 40 more starts in college than Trey Lance. So, he's got a lot of games that he has not played, that he's just got to play. And I want to see just a progression in there of that quick passing game, of being able to get the ball in your playmakers' hands. Let your playmakers, do their thing. Jimmy G is one of the most physically limited quarterbacks ever, and he understood that and said, "I'm just going to get the ball to my playmakers. I'm going to get it into Brandon Ayuk's hands. I'm going to get it to Debo Samuel's hands. Almost throw a pick, but you know what? He's going to run for 80 yards. Trey Lance, let Debo Samuel run for 80 yards and get you a touchdown. You don't have to
Yeah.
throw it 60.
The check downs, man. Check downs and get downs. I want them to check the ball down. I want them to slide. I want them to not take hits. But again, we don't see that till week one.
We're a team that we have lots of talent, and we've acquired it in a lot of different ways, and we're we're the Patriots if the Patriots didn't have Tom Brady, right? The Patriots, people assume just because they have Tom Brady, that's why they won all their Super Bowls. No, they were a deep, talented team, and they didn't do it in the flashy way all the time. They didn't, go in and go out and sign all these big time free agents or trade all these picks. They were, like, known for it. Was like guaranteed. When the Patriots came around at the 31st pick in the draft, 32nd pick in the draft, they were going to trade back,
Yep.
and pick up more picks, and pick up these role player guys. We have followed that model really well, and have built a very deep, both depth and width, team that is stout. And it's like, he made a good point that quarterback seems like the only thing that matters, because it's felt like that's been the position that we just cannot get even consistency at, or any sort of solidity at. So, I think the way that they've gone about building this team, they've gone about developing coaches, developing front office personnel, that this organization does everything right. We have just not been able to get over that hump. But when you do everything right, you're going to be competitive for a long time. Now you throw a if you find that answer at quarterback, which they hope they have on the team already. That's why I'm not really interested in a lot of the names thrown out there. Is like, well, no, let's look at Brock Purdy or Trey Lance. One of our best scenarios, one of those two being the guy, and then we're ready. We're good to go for a long time. Um, so I think they're built the right way to keep competing year after year.
Yeah, David, shout out to David R. He sent me an email this week, and he basically said this. He said, I heard the national media, they were talking about how the Eagles built this entire homegrown roster, and they developed their own guys, drafted their own guys, and all that stuff. And he asked, like, where do the 49ers fit with the Eagles as far as starters? So I went through and I counted both squads up. The Eagles, man, impressive. 14 of their 22 starters they drafted themselves. That's an anomaly in today's NFL. So I went through the 49ers. 16. They have 8 offensive starters they drafted, 8 defensive starters they drafted, so 16 out of 22. Like, this is it's a building stepping block that continues to go. And you talked about the quarterback position. The window's open. And if that quarterback position could just be, it doesn't have to be top 5, right? But if it could be top 10 throughout the entire process, it's going to be a Super Bowl. And you just kind of, it's got that keep chopping mentality. And you've got these 2 cats in there now, Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. And man, if one of those guys just pans out, I feel like Brock Purdy set the floor pretty damn high. And that's not a bad thing.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.